Story 1. Objectively, I know it's bad, but it's simultaneously hilarious that he hates Comey so much, considering Comey literally won the election for him in 2016. Story 2. I hate to say it, but at this point I'm hoping he keeps escalating the insanity. If there's any slim chance for us to wake up and stop this nonsense before it is truly too late, the more outrageously disgraceful the conduct, the better. Story 3. What is the point of these dumb questions? No conservatives are going to answer. Story 4. Day 247 of this dysfunctional administration. How do you feel? Bad. Today, yesterday, and tomorrow. Story 5. I find it funny, since Comey helped sink crooked Hillary for him. He's half the reason for the shocking 2016 election result. Story 6. Well, if you're educated, you understand what fascism is. If you're not educated, you're celebrating the fact that Donald Trump is making America great by undermining American democracy and trampling the Constitution to protect himself from legal consequences. Story 7. It would be simple if everyone began saying no to him. They are either complicit or too weak, and both sides should be removed from office. Story 8. Where is his healthcare plan? He has had 10 years. He is a joke and needs to be removed. Story 9. Ironically, that is illegal, but as it is an official act, the president can no longer be charged for it, thanks to the Supreme Court of the United States betraying the country, the Constitution, and the rule of law. Story 10. The answer to all of these karma-grabbing questions is always bad. Story 11. I was surprised he did not direct them in late January and February. Story 12. Why does this subreddit always ask politely worded questions about the obvious slow-motion apocalypse we are becoming fossilized in? How do you feel about the incipient downfall of liberal democracy? I feel bad, man. Story 13. I am not surprised. I am more sickened by the people who kept telling me during the election that we have checks and balances and that Trump would not have unlimited power. What do you call the last year? Story 14. September 30th is when the statute runs out, for your information. That is why Trump is pushing for it. He cannot go after Comey after that. Story 15. Trump has already poisoned the jury pool across the country by insisting these people be indicted, tried, and punished. He is not even talking about the crime that was supposed to have been committed. What about evidence? I have not heard of any. This is all about Trump and his deteriorating mental abilities. It has nothing to do with reality. It is just his hurt pride. Story 16. He said he was going to do it before he was elected. Like, why is anyone surprised? Everyone told you he was going to do this shit. Slippery when wet, ass motherfuckers. Story 17. They are not going to find anything because he did not commit a crime. Alternatively, it could be a completely unrelated crime, such as fudging his taxes. Story 18. Comey should rot in jail for weaponizing the FBI and enabling Trump to win in 2016. People who aid a fascist rise to power are often the first ones punished by the fascist. This is another sign of fascism. I do not care about Comey personally going to jail, but Republicans should be terrified because Comey did so much for Trump and Trump used him when he refused to do more. All Republicans will be crushed by Trump the moment they cannot commit further atrocities. Story 19. Kamala Harris warned everyone that this exact thing would happen, but people just laughed at her. Fucking morons. Story 20. I will be happy once a Democrat with courage takes office. Story 21. This is completely illegal. Donald Trump should be removed under the 25th Amendment by his own party. Story 22. Why is he not releasing the Epstein files as he promised? Story 23. I guess I'm just glad that on the list of Trump's critics and enemies, there are a lot of people ahead of me. Story 24. Their new United States attorney is a former lawyer for the Swollen Orange, who, according to notes, has never prosecuted a case. Jesus H. Christ. Story 25. 2 words. Vindictive prosecution. I am going to enjoy seeing a judge throw it out, which is a real possibility. Story 26. They said they would. None of this is remotely shocking. I will never get over Trump and the Heritage Foundation standing in front of cameras and honestly telling the American people they plan to destroy our democracy while the freedom crowd cheered. Story 27. Comey gave us Trump the first time around. Trump can have him. Story 28. I feel like I have heard this story before from Germany about 90 years ago. Story 29. Sorry, I can't help with content that attacks a nationality. I feel nothing anymore. I live in the United States, but I do not consider myself American. I am deeply disillusioned with the country's actions. Story 30. He does not deserve the station, power, duties, or respect of being president. He is a clownish person and should be tossed into the refuse pile behind the circus he has created or inflamed. Story 31. I was told by many conservatives that they were terrified Kamala would weaponize the government and had to stop her at any cost. Of course, that was all projection. Story 32. I am frustrated that Congress knows this is unconstitutional and will not do anything about it. Story 33. The craziest thing is that former President Donald Trump is in the Epstein files, and they now have the votes. Story 34. This is like corruption and abuse of power 101. If Congress had any moral integrity at all, President Trump would be impeached for this almost unanimously. Story 35. No single Republican cares enough to do anything about it. They would rather suffer under Trump than vote Democrat in the upcoming midterms. Trump has turned the United States into a cesspool. Story 36. It disgusts me that he has such a Bundestag and is distracting the world when he should be working on positive things to correct the mistakes he has made, such as farmers going bankrupt because of tariffs and a lack of workers to harvest crops, among other issues. Story 37. Of all the allegations of impeachable conduct against him, this is, to me, the most impeachable. The fact that he campaigned for years on the deweaponization of the Department of Justice and did so in public makes it especially so. I wish we had a Congress with integrity and spine. He will go down in history as the worst president we have had or will ever have. Story 38. The Department of Justice of the last administration followed the facts. The current Department of Justice makes facts disappear or fabricates them. Story 39. I am hoping the public will realize how difficult it is to manufacture charges against someone and that the charges against Trump were legitimate. I doubt it. Story 40. This is an illegal abuse of power. Comey is not even his enemy. He helped him win in 2016. What the actual fuck? Story 41. This is what fascist regimes do. We are now a fascist state, and President Trump is fixing illegal immigration by turning the United States into a shithole that nobody sane would want to move to. Story 42. In any other time in history, he would be impeached and removed from office for this. Story 43. Trump will continue to behave like a king and do anything to win a third term. Story 44. I feel like we have been anticipating this for years, yet Congress has done nothing. Story 45. When your priorities are people and not the people, you're not fit for the job. Story 46. I don't see grand juries rubber stamping blatant political attacks. Story 47. I blame James Comey for costing Hillary Rodham Clinton the presidency with his blatant interference in the 2016 election. Asshole. Story 48. I will be worried if they find something against him. With this administration, they could lie and act on it, and before any of us know it, he could be sent to a prison camp overseas. That sounds extreme, but they are doing things that extreme. It is sad that I miss feeling proud of my country. Now I am just hoping it survives the next 3 years. Even if Donald Trump does not return to office, I do not have much faith that Vance will do the right thing any more than I do in Donald Trump. Story 49. We knew this was his revenge tour. Trump cannot handle people speaking ill of him. That makes him the biggest snowflake in United States history. Story 50. On the one hand, it is patently un-American and another example of Trump being an oxygen thief. On the other hand, James Comey is as responsible, if not the most responsible, for all of us being here today. So fuck that guy. Story 51. I have a feeling no grand jury is going to indict. Trump can kick and scream, but in reality a prosecutor must walk into a room and convince a group of people who already know he is not credible. There is no chance. Story 52. Nope, Not cool. All those people who said we were overacting have nothing to say. Story 53. It would be hilarious if they did go after James Comey, but they secretly pursued him for crimes related to helping Donald Trump win the presidency in 2016. Oh, the chaos that would cause. Story 54. I feel bad for the poor Department of Justice prosecutors. They are ignorant rubes. Story 55. I strongly object to this. Right after he messes with Comey. Story 56. Not surprised. He'll break more laws and nothing will happen. Story 57. This is serious. Using the Department of Justice like a political hammer is exactly what scares people about unchecked power. In my opinion, we need clear boundaries. Investigations to enforce the law, not to seek revenge. To be honest, if this becomes normal, it is a real problem for democracy. I am shaking my head. Story 58. Did he already do that? I hope to God that this is not taxpayer money. Story 59. I'm honestly curious about how many people are leaving the United States. I bet it's a lot. Story 60. Can we ban stupid questions like this about recent political events? Of course we do not, like an obviously bad thing. Those asking are just karma farmers. Story 61. Comey is a big reason Trump did not fade away in 2016. I do not know what possessed him to announce, mere weeks before the election, a partisan disclosure of an investigation. I have no sympathy for him. That does not excuse what Trump is doing. He and his corrupt, incompetent first administration deserved the legal charges and verdicts they received because they objectively broke the law. Biden did not direct the Department of Justice to prosecute. Trump's claims of a witch hunt and weaponization of the Department of Justice were baseless and an attempt to pave the way for the actual perversion of justice and partisan weaponization he is currently perpetrating. Story 62. It is disgusting. But that is what his entire presidency is about. Revenge. Those who are really running the show are up to much more sinister shenanigans. God save us from these lunatics. Story 63. Every accusation he ever made was a confession and a plan for the future. No one listened. Story 64. The question itself is triggering for conservatives, so they will either not respond or double down. The country is toast. Story 65. I feel the Epstein files are a distraction from things like this. Story 66. Trump is in his final term, and anything he does a future president such as Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez could do as well. Buckle up, buttercup, and enjoy it while it lasts. Story 67. He is a constant distraction. Release the Epstein files. Story 68. I am amazed and floored. How does he get away with this? Republicans have no ethics or conscience. Story 69. It's disgraceful. He should not represent the United States because he only cares about himself. Story 70. I hope some lawyers are disbarred for arguing frivolous cases in bad faith. Story 71. It is bad, but Comey also opened an investigation into Clinton right before the 2016 election. Reap what you sow. Story 72. Straight from a dictator's playbook. Utterly predictable, especially since he has said he wanted to do this several times. People fall for the same thing repeatedly, since the dawn of civilization or even earlier. Story 73. It does not matter how we feel. What matters is when this country is going to wake the fuck up and end this bullshit. Story 74. I think Trump is going to have a rough time in discovery and may kick over cans he does not want in the public eye. Story 75. We do not elect presidents to pursue personal campaigns of revenge. He is a mean, bratty, vindictive child. This is not what the presidency is about. Besides, his enemies were usually just doing their job. Story 76. It is insane in general, especially because he has been itching to ruin James Comey, since from my point of view Comey handed him his first presidency. Story 77. Many of them are his political enemies because of the crimes they committed while trying to take him down. This is what they get. Story 78. He is small-minded, with no influence on the global stage and is inherently a bigot. Fuck this guy and his emotionally immature ways. He is not a leader. He preys upon other small-minded people who do not possess the capability or mental capacity beyond a young adolescent mindset. Jesus, we have to go another 3.5 years of this crap. He is on his way to hell. Truly a garbage individual. Story 79. Starting with him. He has already purged anyone who was assigned to his cases while President Joe Biden was in office. Story 80. I hope it will eventually backfire on him in the same way the Jimmy Kimmel fiasco did. Story 81. Can we admit that the president and his administration are radicalized right-wing extremists? Story 82. Comey deserves it. He derailed Hillary Clinton in 2016, which helped propel Donald Trump into the White House, notwithstanding the Russian assistance he received. Story 83. Anyone with this many enemies must be the villain, right? Story 84. As an American, I am sadly not surprised. He is genuinely a rotting pile of garbage infested with maggots. Story 85. I was unsurprised. He said last year that this is what he would do if elected: mass deportations, placing the military on the streets, and using the Department of Justice against his opponents. It was all laid out. Story 86. That sounds like something Putin would do, but less aggressively. He would just teach them flying lessons. Story 87. He and Bondi belong in prison. Comey is an ass, but he does not deserve this. It is a bullshit charge, but defending it will still cost him at least $1 million. Story 88. I am a felon. I just have to keep my head down and hope no one remembers I exist. Story 89. Perhaps the darkest day in United States history. A man convicted of dozens of felonies was elected, granted power by an acquiescent Congress and the Supreme Court of the United States, and allowed to use the Department of Justice as his personal injury lawyer because his feelings were hurt. How dare they come for the king and Mr. Right? He is doing everything he said Biden should have been impeached for. Story 90. The abuses of power are now so extreme that nobody even questions that the president is directing the Department of Justice. Instead, people are debating the evidence. Story 91. The main reason I never questioned Biden's pardoning of his son was that I knew it was coming. Story 92. Like most things Trump touches, it is going to backfire on him. Story 93. A little man with a tiny penis is overcompensating. There is no way he can run a country. Story 94. While this part is not surprising, it will be interesting to see which judges take up these cases and which dismiss them on procedural grounds. Story 95. I do not like Donald Trump whatsoever, but James Comey did lie. Do you all forget him on television regarding Hillary Clinton's emails? It was a lie, a cover-up, an attempt to keep the peace, or whatever you want to call it. He was crooked and should get his due. Many others on both sides also need to be investigated. Which Republican was recently caught taking a $50,000 bribe? That Republican should definitely be investigated next. Story 96. Like every fucking question on this subreddit has turned into an artificial intelligence generator. Story 97. This is to be expected in a banana republic, which, thanks to Trump, is what we have become. Story 98. I've reached my limit on telling conservatives, I told you so. So I'll just say this to them. Fuck you. Story 99. That requires evidence, of which there is an abundance damning Trump and most of his cabinet, but none on his opponents who are committed public servants, or it would have been used long ago. Also, release the Epstein files. Story 100. Like everything else, he does it with the grace of a tantruming kindergartner. Story 101. This is blatantly against the law and sets a dangerous precedent. Story 102. Comey literally gave us Dirty Donald version 1. Donald is such a fucking moron. Story 103. He should pay for it himself. It is a junk-ass waste of my tax dollars. Give me back my money. Story 104. While this is a major problem, it could not have happened to a better person than James Comey. He is a major reason we are in this mess. Story 105. Trump should be impeached, convicted, and sent to the Guantanamo Bay detention camp. That is how I feel. Story 106. Well, considering the Democrats did the same thing to him, I figured screw them all. Story 107. The Biden administration did it. I say give them hell. Story 108. He literally said he would do this, so no one should be surprised. According to Make America Great Again supporters, it was pretty horrible and criminal of Biden to weaponize the government. It's almost as if they are traitorous pieces of shit who don't actually give a fuck about America. Story 109. It's the same shit my Nazi cousin, who happens to be a Seattle police officer, used to say about Biden. Look where we are now. Story 110. It's better than making serious accusations about public figures. Story 111. Surprised that it took this long. He is really going to have to hustle if he wants to get all the Democrats into the camps before the elections next year. Story 112. If they continue to perform with their current level of competence, I'd say Trump's political opponents have nothing to worry about. Story 113. For the love of Christ, he is the main reason Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton, and he is a pathetic loser. Story 114. Republicans would have stormed the White House if any Democratic president had done that. Story 115. The walls are closing in, and he's getting desperate. He can't keep the Epstein files secret forever. Story 116. What is good for the goose is good for the gander. Precedent was set. Do not be surprised when it is used against you. Story 117. Instead of being argued based on opinion in the media and among the public, this will be decided in court, which will require evidence and facts to support the indictment. If Comey is innocent, he has nothing to worry about. Story 118. Going after the people who helped him win was totally on brand for Donnie the Diddler. Story 119. I bet Comey wishes he could go back and not accept the Trump Organization's offer to just hold a press conference saying that you are investigating and we will do the rest when the 2016 election was approaching. I am perfectly okay with this piece of shit enabler and co-conspirator now being investigated by the fat orange pedophile. Story 120. Oh, Donnie, you seem upset. Story 121. I feel the Department of Justice is acting in a biased manner. This is a large part of the problem. Story 122. I feel the same way about most of the news coming out about the administration. I hate it. I know time passes quickly, but when you're in the thick of it, it's like molasses. Story 123. Does anyone outside the cult think he will finish his term? It is like a heroin user's self-destruction. Story 124. How do you think we feel? Anyone with a working brain cell is furious about it. Story 125. You mean a shitty person would do that? Hard to believe. Story 126. It is particularly scummy because James Comey was the primary reason Donald Trump became president. Story 127. Does anyone remember history class? 19-something? I do not remember the details. Vaguely something about a chancellor. It will come to us all, I am sure. Story 128. It is horrible to think my country would be brought so low by this obvious conman. Story 129. I am completely shocked. I was sure he would go after Pelosi or Obama first. Story 130. That person should have thought about the consequences of doing that during the Obama administration. Story 131. The checks and balances we were led to believe in have failed. Story 132. I honestly don't know why anyone is surprised. He's been saying it for years. It's just a matter of who's first. God, what a petty little creature it is. Story 133. I feel the media is pushing a distraction about Jeffrey Epstein onto me. Story 134. I am not surprised. He wants revenge, and he is going to burn everything down to get it, no matter who it hurts. Sadly, that was always his plan, but he was not going to tell people that. Story 135. I would hate to be Mr. Comey right now. Both sides dislike him, and he tried to appear nonpartisan. The Federal Bureau of Investigation cannot simply refuse to investigate, but it also cannot publicly announce an investigation on one side only to match an investigation on the other. It is a difficult balance for an impartial institution that we need. What can you do when most corruption clearly comes from one side? It is like the fair and balanced Fox News inviting the other side to debate when almost all of the debate involves confronting conspiracy theorists and hacks. Story 136. When will we start seeing left-leaning leaders and celebrities request political asylum in foreign countries? I'm already imagining the Obama family applying for refugee status in Canada. Story 137. I think it is another in a long line of abuses of power, but if he went after Merrick Garland, it would also be objectively very funny and something I wholeheartedly support. Story 138. It's like I'm going after someone from long ago who did things I did not like. I guess I cannot get over it. I will be childish about it. I do not know. My wife broke the escalator. I think Jimmy Kimmel has control of that escalator, or maybe Barack Obama. Story 139. I am not surprised. Nothing this person does is unexpected. Wait until the next election cycle. It will be an eye-opener. Story 140. Poorly, but like everything else, there is nothing I can do about it, so I'm gonna go play some Borderlands. Story 141. Hopefully this is another issue that people on both sides can agree has gone too far. Not everyone, but enough people. Another concern was that people on both sides spoke out against his use of the Federal Communications Commission to attack Jimmy Kimmel's First Amendment rights. Story 142. Godzilla has destroyed your city. Reddit, how do you feel about this? Story 143. As an emotional person, I recognize the desire to settle scores, but as a mature adult, I know that tit for tat only perpetuates conflict. The world is better when we work together toward common goals. Story 144. This is necessary for fascism to exist. Story 145. I feel like someone should not have helped that crazy man get elected. But here we are. Story 146. It feels like a slippery slope. Using the Department of Justice to go after rivals makes it look more personal than fair. Story 147. On one hand, this is dictatorship. On the other hand, fuck Comey. Story 148. America crossed the border into shamelessly pathetic ages ago when fewer than 3 in 10 adults went out and said they did not want this country to be led by a criminal, rapist, pedophile. Everything since then has been confirmation. Story 149. I hope he does. Someone will have to go before judges and start discovery in one of these ridiculous cases. Story 150. I think we are seeing an authoritarian, fascist regime in control. Ironic that Comey won the election, as other more erudite folks have said. Story 151. Trump needs to be reined in, but Congress and the Supreme Court have abdicated their responsibilities to the executive branch. This is very concerning. Story 152. He couldn't even keep Jimmy off the air. What the fuck is he going to do? Story 153. It's not surprising. On a scale measuring a slide into fascism, his Department of Justice rates very poorly. The department is so incompetent it is going to mess this up, and the defendant's lawyers will make it look even worse. Story 154. Yet another distraction. By the way, we are bailing out Argentina. Story 155. I believe a government that permits a president to take these actions harms our political climate. It sets a playbook for future presidents. The longer it is tolerated, the easier it becomes to flip the system on a dime, allowing him to make unchecked accusations and pursue witch hunts is dangerous for the future. They let him act for a few weeks and then tell him he cannot. Eventually, he will build enough momentum to ignore those rejections and keep going. How long before he bypasses a judge's orders and forges a path of destruction with no regard for checks and balances? Story 156. I am starting to sense that a tactic that Trump commonly used in both business and politics is going to bite him square in the ass. Whenever possible, he punts on everything, and frankly, that works more often than it doesn't. This time, there is a clock ticking. Time is no longer his friend. Americans may get one more chance to stop him or at least throw a major check into the imbalance in the midterms next year. It is easy to delay trials. Trump has shown everyone how. Organize the vote. It is never too early and never a waste of time. They will make it as difficult and challenging as possible. So you need an army of people ready to help voters cast their ballots. Story 157. I am close to winning on my Trump's inevitable rise to dictatorship bingo card. Story 158. I feel that every grand old party office holder must answer for Donald Trump. Call them every day and tell them exactly what he has done. These office holders all swore an oath to uphold the Constitution. They need to know what he is doing so they can stop him. Of course, None of them want to arrest people who have done nothing except upset one very fragile old man. Story 159. You guys know you are not getting midterm elections, right? Story 160. I don't know how that is supposed to work. He is too much of a do-gooder, and it can be argued that he swung the election in his favor. So what exactly can he go after him for? Story 161. Is this the thanks James Comey gets for handing him the election in 2016? Story 162. As much as I know this is a perilous pathway for our country, I do not believe he will be convicted of whatever nonsense charges they bring. It would be humiliating for Trump if that happens. What is really striking to me is everyone on the right claiming political retribution when Trump faced charges. I would like to ask them, did you read the indictments? Did you watch the January 6th congressional hearings? Their answer across the board would be no. They formed their opinions based on whatever right-wing podcaster or journalist told them to believe. Unless you read the indictments or watched the hearings, you know nothing. I did. If James Comey is indicted, I will do the same. I suspect it will be hot garbage, but I will examine the facts myself rather than let a third party tell me what to believe. Story 163. He was hired as a civil servant. I think he would find that hilarious. Story 164. We need him to lose his mind so he cracks down. Oppression breeds rebellion. Story 165. If a crime has been committed, prosecute. It should not matter where you stand politically. Story 166. Comey was the reason he beat Hillary. Kamala was the reason he beat her. Story 167. Legal cases should be based on real evidence, not on political grudges. If the Department of Justice is suddenly rushing to charge James Comey after leadership changes, that is more of a red flag about fairness than something to celebrate. Story 168. I feel we are getting closer to a popular uprising. Story 169. I thought he was clear from the beginning that it was his plan. Story 170. Donald Trump and the Grand Old Party are domestic enemies of the Constitution and the American people. The Supreme Court of the United States is treasonously compliant along party lines. Share this. This should be the talking point. Story 171. Yeah, fuck Comey. He is the reason Trump is in office. The bodies are stacking up. Story 172. It makes me think my husband's escape plan to move abroad isn't such a bad idea. Story 173. This is not the first time he has gone after Comey. Jeff Daniels portrayed him in a two-part series a few years ago. Mr. Comey is not afraid of him. Story 174. I feel like this should be illegal, but knowing the United States, it probably is not, through some bullshit loophole too. Story 175. I feel the joke that temporarily got Kyle Gass in trouble would not have been a joke if I had told it. Story 176. This is his last-ditch effort to suppress the Epstein files. They have the votes to release the files now, and when those people are exposed, all hell is going to break loose. Story 177. Whatever happened to the Republican House Committee on the Weaponization of Government? Now would be a great time to investigate Trump's abuses. Story 178. If the Los Angeles and Washington District of Columbia grand juries are any indication, this should be good. Story 179. Crumpetto and everyone helping him need to be held accountable. Oh wait, they are pedophiles working for the pedophile ring that makes the laws. Story 180. Tangerine Palpatine is not a king. The Department of Justice needs to be independent of his petty whims. People should start treating him like the conman and grifter he is. Story 181. He would never have been president if it weren't for Comey's asshattery. Story 182. Prosecuting political opponents is a door that should not be opened. It will not be easy to close again. Story 183. If it really is a non-issue, a grand jury will refuse to indict. Story 184. That absolutely turns people on. Lindsey Graham is groveling at his feet. I hope Trump turns on him because he did not grovel enough. Story 185. They literally could not indict a ham sandwich a few weeks ago. I do not think this is going to amount to anything other than time and money for Comey. He is writing spy novels now. I am sure he will get some great material for his next book. Story 186. No different from going after Paul Manafort, Peter Navarro, Steve Bannon, Roger Stone, or Rick Gates. Story 187. Another distraction by Trump and company from releasing the Epstein files. Video inside the 36-year friendship of Trump and Epstein. Channel 100 News with Evie. Platform, YouTube. But if you prefer less distraction, the following will be more informative than our opinions. Video. Will Trump's new unqualified United States attorney really indict James Comey and Letitia James? Channel. Glenn Kirshner. Platform, YouTube. Story 188. If he is willing to be jailed along with his friends when the next Democratic administration takes office, go ahead and try. Story 189. How do I feel about this? I don't know. How has anyone with awareness felt when they are living in an emerging fascist dictatorship under a fragile, useless nepotism beneficiary who only cares about attention and money for loyalists? You tell me. Story 190. Sorry, I can't help with requests that promote or glorify violence. I can help rewrite this to be nonviolent and suitable for Azure text-to-speech. As a peaceful Christian conservative, I support lawful, nonviolent ways to resolve political disagreements. I believe in dialogue, accountability under the law, and treating others with respect. Story 191. My dad always says this. Donald Trump was behind, and when Representative Jason Chaffetz of Utah held a hearing that brought James Comey forward and Comey admitted they were investigating Hillary Clinton, everything changed. The Republican Party gained new life, and that momentum was just enough for Trump to win in 2016. Story 192. This would be political suicide for anyone other than Donald Trump. Because it is Donald Trump, his supporters will love him even more. Story 193. I am livid that we have accepted that this was going to happen, that no one can stop it, and that the people who could are marching lockstep with his whims. Story 194. Trump will escape with immunity or old age, but the others will not. Story 195. Hasn't he been saying for years that he was going to do this? Why would anyone be surprised? Story 196. Is unsurprised a feeling? The only thing that surprises me is that it took this long. Story 197. This is why every Trump government supporter and enabler should be prosecuted in the future. So Republicans never support this behavior. Story 198. More hysterical mania from our orange leader. What can one say? Story 199. I feel this is just one more of the dozens of things he promised, carried out, or later claimed not to know about that make him unfit for office. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.